So I spoke just before the show started to Nigel Farage, former UKIP leader, and asked him what on earth is going on.
Yeah, what's going on in the Channel on a daily basis when it's calm is the French Navy see a dinghy, often just a couple of hundred yards off the French shore. They escort it all the way to a 12-mile line from the British coast. And at that moment, Border Force are there, and literally it's a handover from the French Navy to Border Force, who bring the migrants in to Dover for processing. That is a job for Border Force. It is not a job for the RNLI, and yet a huge burden has fallen upon them over the course of the last few years. The times when the lifeboat should be used are on those odd occasions when there is a genuine emergency. And nobody, least of all me, would object to that. I was in fact involved myself in a rescue of two men who were in the water, and we managed to get them on board and wait for the lifeboat to come. But it is the fact that Border Force, frankly, have been handing off this job of being a taxi service to the lifeboats that is causing deep division within coastal communities in Kent. And actually, it's causing lifeboat crew to resign because these people are volunteers. You know, when their pager goes off, they're self-employed, they're working as a builder or whatever it is, they go. Well, they can't do it day after day if it's costing them too much money. So I just think it's wrong. This is not what the RNLI is meant to be.
Is what happening then that they're called out when a migrant boat is in trouble, or are they already on the sea and these boats are just drifting towards them?
The problem here is they are called out regularly, again and again and again, to attend boats that are not in any trouble whatsoever, but very often are being escorted by the French Navy all the way to a 12-mile line. I mean, the whole thing is a shuttle service aided and abetted by the French Navy, and why quite we've given the French another £500 million, I don't know. And that is not what the RNLI should be doing. It is there to save lives at sea. The people that are involved in it, the men and women that are involved in it, are incredible people. The vast majority of them are volunteers. They go out in very dangerous conditions. And when we had the last tragedy in the Channel, I mean, one of the Kent crews actually dived overboard at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and try and save people. These are wonderful people, but they should not be used by Border Force as an arm of Border Force and, frankly, part, as I say, of helping criminal gangs. That is not what it's for.
And yet, when there was a big attack on the RNLI on exactly these grounds about a year and a bit ago, the response of the RNLI's membership was that they said, no, we support it. And actually, their membership numbers went up, didn't they? As if people said, no, leave them alone, don't blame them for this.
Well, I think there was a one-day Facebook campaign that raised a couple of £100,000. Fine. But I mean, you know, the lifeboats need to raise £140 million a year to keep going as an organisation. You know, I have never, ever attacked the crews that are involved in this. I've spoken face-to-face with many of them. A lot of them have grave doubts about what they're doing, but, you know, they can't speak out, otherwise they'll be drummed out. A lot of them have grave reservations about picking up, you know, hordes of young men week after week after week. As I say, I'm a lifelong seafarer. I've actually had use of the RNLI in the past to tow me in. I've been a big supporter of the RNLI. I've been giving it money for nearly 40 years. It's a wonderful organisation. It's got its bicentenary coming up next year. We should be enormously proud that we have this service around the country, but it should not be used routinely to go and pick up people who are not in trouble.
Just one more then. Let's take the RNLI out of it and say they just rescue people who get in trouble having launched off the coast of the UK. How do you deal with this problem? This is the $64 million question.
Well, the overall problem? Well,
yes.
I'm afraid in the absence of the French wanting to reach any agreement with us at all, with the impossibility of Rwanda, because of our membership of the European Court of Human Rights, we have to go for an Australian-style solution. And they faced this problem for years. Boats coming across from Indonesia, bigger boats, more people on them, but exactly the same problem. And in the end, Tony Abbott, who was the Prime Minister in 2012, literally towed the boats back to Indonesia. And he was told that he was breaching international law, condemned by the UN, the EU, the British government, and everybody else. But guess what happened after a week of towing back the boats? People stopped paying the traffickers, the boats stopped coming, and there were no more tragedies and drowning. And that is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to take people straight back to France. And yes, there'll be a hue and a cry, but as soon as people realise that it's not worth paying $3,500 to a criminal gang, this will stop.
Nigel Farage, former UKIP leader, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Listening to that is Simon Harris, who's raised £232,000 for the RNLI and has a blog called Man Behaving Dadly. What do you think of what Nigel Farage said?
Hello. Yeah, it's just laughable, actually. Just something to quickly point out. It wasn't just a one-day Facebook campaign that he mentioned as sort of like, far away, pathetic little thing, who cares? It was actually quite a small social media campaign that went viral when he decided to call it out live on his GB News show. So it was actually him who sent it viral in the first place.
Right, OK. I don't know if that makes his point stronger or weaker.
I'm not sure at all, but again, it's just the classic Streisand effect, isn't it? The way that, again, it's just the way that he likes to twist things. And
well, you should explain the Barbara Streisand effect is where she famously asked somebody not to take photos of her house and they went viral as a result.
Pretty much, right, kind of like a half Streisand effect then. But, the point still stands. It's just his tactic of belittling people that might not take his point of view. He's used phrases like hard left, Ramona, when he's been talking about the campaign as well before. It's just his thing. But
he was very polite about the RNLI there, and I was about to say I contribute to it, and he obviously does as well. So
that is another classic Farage tactic. It's always kind of the argument that he puts across is done in a very certain way because he knows full well that the people who follow him will cherry pick certain parts of it, as in RNLI and bad. He's not going to stand there and slate the RNLI outright because he's got, hundreds of thousands of people on his Twitter to do it for him. He's just got to set the ball rolling. That's it.
So in terms of the content of what he said, it is this, that the migrants want to get from France to the UK. We won't even try and work out why. They start moving away from France. He says they're being escorted by the French at that point because they want a shot of them. And then when our border force see them coming, their reaction is to ring the RNLI when they feel like it and say, look, we need help with the next lot. And the RNLA always say yes, right? That's the Farage argument. Is that true or not?
It's not that they always say yes. It's that they have to. It's that they basically have to say yes because a lot of people, what they completely forget about the RNLI, they have to save all lives at sea. That's it. No ifs, no buts, no this, that and the other. They have to save all lives at sea. If they don't save all lives at sea, they are not doing what they are obliged to do. And I believe to be fair, I think again, correct me if I'm wrong, but any seafaring vessel has an obligation under international law to save lives at sea. But the point is, that may well be the case. But if that is the case, why are so many people screaming at the RNLI for doing what the RNLI are meant to do?
Well, the point, I feel bad repeating what Farage said, but just so it's clear, because you're answering him and he's not there now, is that he says he's not blaming the RNLI. He's upset with Border Force for asking the RNLI to act, as he says, as a taxi service for illegal immigrants.
If he actually cared about the RNLI as much as he said he was, he wouldn't use phrases like taxi service for migrants. That just demonises them. Taxi service for migrants, again, it's that seed he's sowing. He knows full well the people that follow him will just take that and go, oh, I'm not bad, I'm not donating, I'm cutting off all donations. And all that's going to happen, if you withhold your money because of what's going on in the channel, which you're angry about, because you're angry at the government, not the RNLI, you're going to put lives at risk around the whole of the UK because they are 100% funded by charitable giving. So, where does it end? People up in Scotland, fishermen, maybe can't get rescued. I'm not saying it could happen anytime soon, but if this constant narrative of RNLI bashing and dog whistling, I think, where people with a big following say one thing, knowing full well that the people that follow them will just take it and twist it and pump out to the extent where there have been incidents of RNLI crew being verbally abused at Tower Bridge, I believe.
Really?
But again, people go, oh, how does one thing lead to the other? Well, that's exactly it. People with massive followings know exactly what to say to get their people riled up, and it's just basically set them up, wind them up, off they go.
Thank you very much. Simon Harris, who's raised a lot of money, £250,000 for the RNLI. And Simon has a blog as well you could look at. It is called Man Behaving Dadly.
It's the ultimate test of how well you know